Today, I'm going to talk to a foster mom about how she built a relationship with birth parents and how frustrating that process can be and what she did to get around some of those frustrations. So talk to me about building a relationship with a BioParent. What's that like?
Well, again, every situation's different, right? Some, I think, make it easier than others, With one of our placements, we would have the opportunity to see them at visits, for drop-off and pickup. And he was super, super appreciative and said, "God bless you." And I'm so grateful for you taking care of my kids. And so that seemed on the surface to be a good relationship. But then, the backside of that is he's saying all these things about us to the kids. And it's hard not to take that personal, I think that it's important to keep in mind what situation you're in. They don't have their kids, they're desperate. So they're going to try to do whatever they can to make themselves look better to their kids, because right now they don't look good to their kids because they're not with them, right? And so I think keeping that perspective in mind is super important. Our other placement, I was in charge of supervising the visit, so I would have more interaction, and I was in charge of scheduling the visit, and I'd schedule it and then they'd cancel, or, oh, can we make it later, or whatever. And it's super hard not to judge those things based on your own standards, right? I'm thinking if somebody else had my kids, I would do whatever they needed, but I can't really say that because I haven't been in that situation.
Right.
And a lot of the people whose kids are in the system, it's not just because they don't have their kids. They may have mental illness, or they have addiction, or there's all these other layers that you need to keep in mind that are kind of holding them down and causing them to make the kind of decisions that they're making,
Absolutely.
But I think it's important to remember that they love their kids, and so when they're making these decisions that are driving you crazy, try and think, I can't even imagine what I would be like if some stranger had my kid. I don't know how I would react. Don't have that attitude well, I would never do this, or I would never be in this situation. Yeah, you don't know, and you can't. It's not your job to judge other people. Your job solely is to take care of these kids.
Sure. So how did you maintain compassion? Because obviously there were times where it was probably hard to find compassion for some of these BioParents.
It was hard, and I'm not going to say that all the time I had it. You know what I mean? And I think that's normal. And I think what's important to do is to not voice those complaints in front of the kids, because they're watching you. I know our older girls talked about, other people in the past who would say negative things about him, and they remembered that. So when we would be in contact with them, know that the kids are watching us, and those BioParents are part of them, And so, again, you're doing this for those kids, right? And so if you have to put on a brave face and kind of fake it till you make it, that's what you have to do. And you have to have that outlet where you can vent, because you don't always feel that compassion, right? And so I think it was important that, you and I would have our time where we would just go and vent about it. You can't, first of all, you can't talk about the case and stuff to other people, but you also don't even want to talk in generalizations to people who aren't in it, because their reaction is going to be why are you doing it then? Just quit. They don't get it. You don't want to quit. You just are frustrated. And so, that's where that village comes in. If you have a spouse or significant other, that's great. If not, who are your other foster parent people who get it, who've been there, who can hear you and know that you're super frustrated and just let you talk it out, and they're not going to say, oh, okay, quit sponsoring,
Right. How did you stay positive when a birth parent wasn't working their case plan?
I don't know that I always did. It's frustrating because, there were times where, I thought, we're on the road, they're about to go home. And I was happy not because I didn't want those kids, but because that's why I signed up for this. You know, I signed up for this to put families back together. I didn't sign up for this to adopt kids. You know, I already had 5 kids, and this was just another thing I wanted to do. I wasn't trying to gain extra kids. So, you know, I'm excited that everything's going in the right path, and then all of a sudden it's like derailed, and I was frustrated. I would say sometimes too, I was even angry at the parent, because it's like, it seems like I want this more than you want it, you know, and I wanted it for their kids, and didn't they want it for their kids? But then those were the moments that I had to step back and look at the other circumstances. You know, we're talking about addiction, we're talking about mental health. It's not just a decision of, do you want your kids or not? And I think if that were the case, that we wouldn't even be where we were.
Right. Birth parents have a tendency to give misinformation to their children, right? Some would say they're lying. Sometimes I think birth parents actually don't even realize they're lying. Maybe it's what they want reality to be, but it happens not to be. So what did you do when your foster child would come in and birth parent clearly told them something that wasn't true? How did you handle that? What did you do?
I don't know that I always did it right, because I remember sometimes with the 2 that we adopted, I remember like kind of questioning them, like not saying that, hey, he's full of crap, but basically saying like, so do you think that's what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? Like kind of putting it back on them just to let them think about it. I don't know that was the right thing to do. You know, sometimes you just kind of, I mean, early on there were things that they would say and we would just kind of go with it. But as it's getting more like, I almost felt like that's another situation where you have to read the kid, where, you know, they knew that it wasn't true, but they needed someone else to help them know that it's okay for them to know that wasn't true. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So like I would say, oh, do you think that's what's happening? No, I don't believe him either. You know what I mean? And that's what they wanted me to hear. So I didn't say he's a liar, but it was almost like they wanted to say, I'm not crazy to think that he's not really doing this, right? You know, just kind of being a support for them. You know what I mean? I remember another placement where, you know, the kids were, you know, the 8-year-old was asking the mom, did you pay your bills? Like, are you going to work? And, you know, those are hard things. And, you know, just trying to help support them and through their counselor to say, you know, that's not your role to be the adult, you know? So sometimes I think therapists are a big help, you know, to, if you know things are going on, so they can help talk through it. Cause like I said, I did kind of question, but not in the beginning. I would never call them a liar. But like I said, that was after we'd had this placement for over a year and they were older and we knew them, but just kind of validating them by like being supportive, you know?
Yep.